I recently heard of some awful legislation coming out of the parliament in the African country of Uganda. This legislation would be an awful blow to the human rights of homosexuals in this country. And you guessed it, the people behind it are all motivated by their religious faith. That faith isn't radical Islamic fundamentalism, it is American Christian fundamentalism. And it was religious conservatives in this American Congress and prominent fundamentalist preachers who were supporters of this African government. Uganda was not always like this. Once upon a time, this country was like any other country in Africa. In one way, it was different. Its policy on AIDS prevention was the most effective in Africa. It was based on a reasoned and science-based system which says, abstain from sex. If you have sex, be monogamous. Or if you insist on not being monogamous, wear a condom. This simple adage was used throughout Uganda, and the result was that the AIDS rate was on the decline. Then the Bush administration's efforts to help Africa's AIDS problem began. But certain conservative Christian Republicans wanted the majority of the money that was going to Africa to be used for abstinence programs. Abstinence programs in the U.S. looked good for the religious conservatives, but were entirely ineffectual at stopping STDs and pregnancies. The results for Uganda was exactly the same. The AIDS rate went from a decline to a doubling in number. All the while, Christian fundamentalists were gaining more and more influence in that country. The results were that the new leader of Uganda, his wife, and the government officials were born-again Christians. And then the failed abstinence program they instated did not stop the AIDS infection from spreading. So they tried something that went with their born-again Christian theology, and are trying to pass legislation that would punish people for being or associating with Ugandan homosexuals. The leadership's theology believed that gay people chose to be gay and could recant from being gay through the force of national law. These new laws, if passed, would 1. Make any gay person who has AIDS to be put to death by hanging. 2. Gay people who did not have AIDS would simply be put in prison for the rest of their life. And 3. Anyone who associates with gay people and not turn them in to the authorities would be punished by 3 years in prison. Human rights groups brought this to the attention of the world, and now all those American conservative Christian politicians and preachers who supported the Ugandan regime are either decrying these laws or remain silent on the issue. This godly government of Uganda that these people created has become a monster. They will be held responsible for all the abuses and deaths that their biblically inspired policies toward this country have wrought. This is what happens when you try to institute governmental policies based on theology rather than on reason and basic human dignity. These same American religious conservatives, preachers, and politicians will want to impose this theology on American soil. I would wager we would get the similar results that were found in Uganda. So we as atheists and human rights advocates must be on the lookout for signs of theocracy in our own country. As the great patriot once said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance.